1 minute ago, Jay Leno finally broke his silence and confirmed what really happened to the secret collection he's denied for years. Not the cars you've seen on TV, but the hidden vault collectors whispered about. And what he revealed stunned the automotive world. This changes everything we thought we knew about Jay Leno's garage. It happened quietly. No live broadcast, no studio lights, no polished monologue. Just a simple message released minutes ago that sent shockwaves through the automotive world. Jay Leno, the man who built the most famous garage on Earth, finally addressed the rumors that have followed him for more than a decade. The whispers of a second collection, a hidden vault, a place the cameras never entered, the public never saw, and Leno always dodged questions about with a smile and a joke. But tonight, the jokes stopped. For the first time, Jay confirmed that the rumors were true. There was another collection, real, massive, and intentionally kept out of public view. Not because of ego, secrecy, or exclusivity, but because he believed the world wasn't ready to know what he was protecting. He explained that the vault wasn't like the garage viewers saw on TV. It wasn't bright, polished, well-lit, or curated for entertainment. It was raw, industrial, a working storage facility filled with prototypes, historical artifacts, engineering experiments, and vehicles so rare that some manufacturers didn't even want them mentioned, let alone filmed. Cars with legal restrictions, cars tied to NDAS, cars whose origins raise more questions than answers. Leno admitted that he kept the vault off camera because showing it would have changed everything. Insurance policies, manufacturer relationships, even the safety of the collection itself. He feared unwanted attention, targeted theft, and public misunderstanding about what the vault truly represented. His voice in the announcement carried weight, something fans aren't used to hearing from him. Not the cheerful host, not the energetic enthusiast, but a man who understood that what he'd hidden for years was finally reaching a point where silence was no longer responsible. This isn't about secrecy, he said. It's about preservation, and it's time people understood what really existed behind those locked doors. And with that single sentence, Jay Leno didn't just confirm a rumor. He opened the door to one of the biggest automotive mysteries of our time. To understand why Jay Leno hid an entire automotive treasure trove from the world, you have to understand Jay himself. Not the comedian, not the TV host, but the historian. Jay never saw cars as status symbols. To him, they were artifacts, pieces of engineering history that deserved respect, quiet, and protection from the noise of fame. He grew up fixing cars in his backyard, memorizing parts diagrams, studying engines the way other kids studied comic books. Gathering cars wasn't about bragging rights. It was about preservation, saving mechanical masterpieces before they were lost, scrapped, or forgotten. But his public garage became too public. Fans came by unannounced. Drone footage started appearing. Security concerns escalated. People online began mapping entrances and exits. And worst of all, some of the rarer cars started drawing interest from people with intentions far different from Jay's. So he made a decision. If he was going to protect the rarest machines he had, prototypes, experimental engines, politically sensitive vehicles, and gifts given under quiet agreements, he needed them stored somewhere the world couldn't see. This second collection wasn't glamorous. It wasn't designed for TV. It was a functional vault for cars that held stories too complicated, too sensitive, or too unfinished to be showcased. Jay admitted something surprising. Many of these cars weren't even restored. Some were in mid-construction. Others couldn't legally be driven on public roads. Some came from manufacturers who demanded strict confidentiality, because the vehicles were scrapped or abandoned projects never meant to resurface. It wasn't secrecy for the sake of secrecy. It was stewardship. Jay said it bluntly. Some cars weren't ready for the spotlight, and some never will be. The private collection wasn't about hiding cars from the public. It was about protecting history from misunderstanding. and protecting the cars from the world. When Jay finally confirmed the vault's existence, the next question exploded online. What's actually in it? For years, whispers circulated through collector circles. Stories of cars too rare, too controversial, or too experimental for public display. And now, Jay has finally acknowledged that many of those rumors weren't just speculation. They were rooted in truth. Deep in the vault sat vehicles unlike anything in his televised collection. Some were prototype supercars, built by major manufacturers in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Projects that never reached production, killed by budget cuts, internal politics, or catastrophic design flaws. These cars often existed in quantities of 1 or 2. Jay owned them because executives trusted him to keep them safe and silent. There were military hybrid experiments, early attempts at fuel-efficient armored transports that never saw the battlefield, vehicles with odd shapes and unusual engineering choices, the kind of machines you'd assume came from science fiction rather than Detroit. Jay even confirmed that he held several celebrity-owned relics, cars tied to political leaders, old Hollywood stars, and public figures whose estates didn't want the vehicles associated with scandals or controversies. But the crown jewels? Concept cars, machines with no VIN numbers, no registrations, and no legal pathway to public ownership. These were sculpted visions of the future, preserved only because someone like Jay saw their historic value. He described walking through the vault at night, running his hand across unfinished fenders, reading old engineering notes scribbled on dashboards, and feeling like he was standing in the middle of automotive alternate timelines. What could have been, what almost was, what history forgot. The vault wasn't a secret garage. It was a museum of the world's abandoned dreams. For years, fans wondered why certain cars never appeared on Jay Leno's garage. With millions of viewers and a platform capable of making any obscure vehicle suddenly famous, why did Jay keep so many machines hidden? Today, he finally explained some cars were simply too dangerous to show, not because they were illegal, not because they were secret, but because their engineering, experimental, unstable, or incomplete, posed real risks even to someone as experienced as Jay. He admitted that several prototypes in the vault were never meant to be driven outside controlled environments. Some had engines that produced immense torque, but lacked proper braking systems. Others had chassis designs abandoned after engineers realized they twisted under load. A few had powertrains that overheated within minutes, threatening total meltdown. Jay joked about pushing boundaries, but in private, he respected danger. He'd seen engines explode. He'd felt cars lose control. And he knew that showing these unstable machines on TV could send the wrong message to viewers who might try to recreate something they didn't fully understand. There were also legal concerns. Some cars came from confidential development programs. Others were tied to intellectual property disputes. A few were literally one-off builds with no documentation, which meant they couldn't be insured, tested, or safely operated. Jay described one prototype that terrified even him, a mid-engine V12 concept with brutal acceleration and almost no traction control. Engineers later abandoned the design after multiple testers spun out at low speeds. Jay kept the car, not because he planned to drive it, but because he didn't want it destroyed. The vault became the final resting place for machines that were beautiful, brilliant, and hazardous. Cars too risky for TV, too powerful for public roads, too rare to scrap. Jay didn't hide them to be mysterious. He hid them because he respected what they represented: innovation's dangerous side. Jay Leno has always been open about buying cars, auctions, private sales, barn finds. But what he revealed today is that some of his most extraordinary acquisitions happened far away from cameras, far from the friendly banter of Jay Leno's garage. These deals weren't public. They weren't documented. They were whispered about in private circles, negotiated quietly, often sealed with nothing more than a handshake and mutual trust. Jay confirmed that throughout the 90s and 2000s, he was invited to private estate liquidations, events where families wanted discretion, not headlines. Some were the collections of reclusive millionaires. Others belonged to engineers who'd spent entire careers building experimental machines in secrecy, leaving behind cars that had no legal classification and no public value, except to someone like Jay. Then there were the manufacturer-only auctions, closed-door events where automakers offloaded prototypes, pre-production units, canceled projects, or cars that violated new regulations and couldn't be shown publicly. Most of these vehicles were supposed to be destroyed. A handful escaped because Jay stepped in. But the most surprising acquisitions were the rescues. Jay described moments when he received calls saying, "Jay, they're about to crush this. Do you want it?" Without hesitation, he'd send a truck. He saved early electric vehicles abandoned after their programs collapsed. He saved rotary engine experiments that never passed emissions. He saved hydrogen prototypes, turbine engines, and chassis that represented entire decades of innovation, lost to budget cuts or corporate restructuring. Jay said something striking. "A lot of history was one forklift away from disappearing forever. If I didn't take it in, no one would." Some of these cars were so strange, so unorthodox, that he refused to show them publicly, afraid they would be misunderstood or mocked. These were passion projects created by brilliant engineers who ran out of time, funding, or luck. Jay kept them alive because he believed history isn't just built on success. It's built on the experiments that failed but pushed the industry forward. These hidden acquisitions, he revealed, were not for fame. They were for posterity, a private archive of the world's forgotten engineering. Jay finally addressed one of the biggest mysteries: why he concealed the identity and location of the vault for decades. To the public, his regular garage looked like the Fort Knox of automobiles. But the hidden facility? That was something else entirely, designed with the seriousness of a museum protecting artifacts worth millions. At first, Jay kept the second location quiet, simply because of security. The moment Jay Leno's garage became a phenomenon, thousands of fans began showing up at his main warehouse. Some were harmless. Others climbed fences, attempted break-ins, or followed trucks leaving the building. Jay realized the rarest cars couldn't stay anywhere predictable. Then came more concerning events, celebrities targeted for robberies, classic car collectors attacked for their keys, a rise in coordinated thefts of rare vehicles across Los Angeles. Jay understood that if criminals ever learned about the vault, it would become one of the most valuable targets in the country. So he created a facility almost no one knew about. He described it as a place with biometric entry, motion sensors under the concrete, industrial fire suppression systems, humidity-controlled storage bays, underground rooms reinforced like bank vaults, no exterior signage, no public-facing address. He compared the secrecy to the way museums store priceless artifacts in undisclosed warehouses. But the real reason he hid it? To prevent the cars from being misunderstood. Some prototypes were tied to corporate secrets. Some belonged to families who trusted Jay to protect their reputations. Some were political artifacts that could spark controversy. Some were dangerous to operate. People aren't always ready for the stories behind these machines, Jay admitted. He didn't want to create conspiracies. He wanted to avoid them. Now that he's revealed its existence, Jay remains cryptic about the location, not out of paranoia, but because some pieces of history still require protection from the chaos of the modern world. For years, whispers circulated online that something catastrophic happened inside Jay's hidden vault. Specifically, that a fire a flood or a structural failure damaged part of the secret collection. Fans speculated endlessly, conspiracy threads grew. Drone hobbyists claimed to have spotted emergency crews near an anonymous industrial structure. Today, Jay finally addressed the rumor. And yes, something did happen. He described it carefully, choosing his words like someone reliving a moment he still feels in his chest. It wasn't a raging inferno. It wasn't a Hollywood explosion. But it was serious enough to threaten vehicles that could never be replaced. According to Jay, a fault in an electrical conduit deep within the building caused an overheating issue. Alarms sounded at 2:14 a.m. The building's fire suppression system activated immediately, dousing the affected zone with a specialized foam designed for industrial facilities. The good news? The fire never spread beyond a single storage bay. The bad news? That bay contained several irreplaceable prototypes, including one vehicle Jay had spent years trying to save. Some cars suffered cosmetic damage. One had wiring destroyed beyond repair. And one experimental drivetrain, an early hydrogen rotary hybrid, was damaged so severely that Jay admitted it was lost to history. The emotional weight in his voice made it clear. This wasn't about money. It was about legacy. He kept the incident quiet for years because he didn't want panic, speculation, or insurance complications. But the moment changed him. It made him realize secrecy wasn't enough. Preservation requires transparency, resources, and a plan for the future. This incident wasn't the reason the vault stayed hidden. It was the reason he's revealing it now. For the first time, Jay opened up about the emotional aftermath of the vault incident. What it felt like to stand inside a smoke-filled room, knowing the rarest machines in his possession had nearly been erased from existence. These weren't just cars to him. They were pieces of automotive evolution, projects that represented entire teams of engineers, decades of innovation, and forks in history that never reached the public. Jay walked the vault after the incident with a flashlight in hand, stepping through puddles of extinguishing foam, heart pounding like an engine under strain. He said he saw one prototype, an aerodynamic experiment from the early 1990s, collapsed under its own melted roof panel. Another vehicle, a turbine-powered concept car, was covered in soot so thick he initially didn't recognize it. A third car, a one-of-one hydrogen-electric hybrid prototype, sat there steaming, wires dangling from its undercarriage like exposed nerves. He paused on that one. "Some cars you can rebuild?" he said. "Others, you only get one chance at." Jay admitted the moment hit him harder than almost anything in his collecting career. It wasn't the financial loss. It was the loss of the story, the craftsmanship, the knowledge embedded in those machines. When a car like that disappears, a piece of engineering history disappears with it. Technology that may never be replicated again. And yet, in the middle of the heartbreak, engineers and restoration experts rallied around him. Jay flew in specialists from Europe, Japan, Detroit, people who had worked on the original vehicles decades earlier. They walked through the wreckage with him, assessing the damage like surgeons examining patients. Some cars survived. A few were painstakingly restored. One, a prototype engine that never reached production, was beyond saving. Jay salvaged the parts as memorials, keeping a valve cover and a piece of the shattered intake manifold on a shelf in the vault. "It reminds me what's at stake," Jay said. "History doesn't preserve itself. Someone has to fight for it." The near loss became the turning point, the moment he realized secrecy could no longer serve the mission. Jay Leno has never sought drama. If anything, he has spent a lifetime avoiding it. Which is why fans were stunned to hear him speak so openly, so seriously about a part of his life he had protected for decades. But today, Jay revealed the real reason he finally stepped forward. The vault, he said, was created out of necessity, but maintaining secrecy was becoming harder, legally, logistically, and emotionally. The world had changed. Technology had changed. Security threats had changed, and Jay himself had changed too. After his well-publicized garage fire, followed by a serious motorcycle accident, Jay admitted he began thinking about legacy more than ever. Not wealth, not fame, but what would happen to his collections, both public and private, when he was no longer here to guide them. He realized something uncomfortable. If he didn't document the vault, it might one day vanish without context. Worse, it could be dismantled, sold improperly, or even destroyed because no one understood what it contained or why it mattered. Some cars had no paperwork. Some had no VINs. Some existed only because Jay rescued them from disposal. Without his explanation, his voice, future generations might misunderstand the collection entirely. So he made the decision. It was time to reveal the truth, not to boast, but to preserve. Jay explained that he had already begun working with museums, archives, and historical societies. He wanted experts to know which cars had cultural value, which had technical significance, and which held stories that could teach future engineers lessons the industry had forgotten. He wasn't exposing a secret. He was passing the torch, and the timing wasn't accidental. Jay hinted that his recent health scares forced him to confront something he had avoided his whole life. "I can't take any of this with me, but I can make sure it lives on." The unveiling wasn't an ending, it was preparation. After decades of secrecy, near loss, and preservation, Jay finally revealed what will happen to the vault, and it's not what most fans expected. He could have sold everything off. He could have auctioned the cars for millions. He could have locked the doors forever. Instead, Jay laid out a plan rooted in passion, responsibility, and legacy. First, he announced that many of the vault vehicles will be donated, not to one museum, but several. He believes different institutions can tell different parts of the automotive story. Some cars will go to engineering schools, others to historical museums. A few may even become part of rotating international exhibits. Second, Jay confirmed he is creating a digital archive documenting each vehicle's origin, purpose, engineering significance, and the story behind how he acquired it. For the first time, the world will have a complete record of machines previously unseen. Third, he hinted at a new project, a foundation dedicated to preserving overlooked automotive history, something that will outlive him, powered by experts he trusts. Finally, and most emotionally, Jay addressed what the vault meant to him personally. He admitted the secret wasn't about possession, it was about guardianship. He wanted to hold these cars until the world was ready for them, until the right organizations could protect them, until their stories could be told correctly. "Cars are more than steel and engines," he said. "They're chapters of who we were and who we could have been." And now, after decades of silence, those chapters will be opened. Not hidden behind locked doors, but shared with the world. Jay Leno didn't just confirm what happened to his secret collection. He ensured its future. A legacy not of secrecy, but of preservation.